Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, my dear respected viewers, inshallah ta'ala, we begin our lesson tonight by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity for us to continue with our lesson in the commentary of Aqeedah Sanusiyyah. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with the understanding and tawfiq and hidayah. And may Allah protect us from all difficulties, trials and tribulations in dunya and akhirah. Ameen. Ya Rabbal Alameen. So inshallah, from where we have entered into from our kitab. So in our previous lesson, we are still speaking about the concept of al-istighna. And this is from the meanings of the definition of la ilaha illallah is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not in need of anything other than Him. This is the meaning of al-istighna. So the author spoke a few things based on this particular principle. So we have come to the part where he mentioned that everything else other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all this explained that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is hayyun, that Allah is all living. Because the opposite of al-hayy is death. So it is impossible that Allah does not exist. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ever living, in existence, wajibul wujud, and the fact that everything else other than Allah is in need of Allah, and they do not possess any ability within themselves, and Allah is not in need of anything. So inshallah, now we enter into our book. For your information, and especially for those who are following this lesson, who have been following this lesson, I posted a YouTube link in the WhatsApp group. The reason why it is not portrayed in Seeker's Nest YouTube, because I do not know what happened. Suddenly my account, the Google account, all of my accounts were, how would I say it, ala kulli hal, let me sign out. I do not know what happened, so I have a difficulty signing in to the Seeker's Nest account. But alhamdulillah, last minute I managed to sign in to my own account. So that is why I do live stream in my own account, ala kulli hal. So I posted the link there. So now we will enter into our kitab. Just give me some time. Okay, this is there. This is the book. So this is basically where we have come into. I remember in our last lesson, we were speaking lastly about this part where the author mentioned that it is what you call it, based on the dalil naqli, that we are in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is a verse in the Quran where Allah mentioned, Ya ayyuhan nas antumul fuqara'u ilallah wallahu huwal ghaniyyul hamid. So rationally it is found in the proof for oneness. For oneness, basically when last time we spoke about wahdaniyah, there is no other God beside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the author mentioned about the dalil burhanu tamanu, about the evidences behind God is one, and how it is impossible if God is more than one. So this is part of the proofs that we say that everything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because nothing possess any divinity except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now when we go to the next part, where he mentioned about al-qudra, which is translated as omnipotence. So now when the author is saying that once we have understood that everything else other than Allah is in need of Allah, it shows that Allah possesses power. It shows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala possess the attribute of omnipotence. So this is where he is mentioning So he said that all others any beside him. So this is a continuation. This is a continuation. So once any we understand the concept of al-istighna, that Allah is not in need of anything and everything is in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah must possess what you call it, power. That all others beside him are in need of him necessitates that the linkage of his omnipotence is general, and it is linked to everything. The linkage of the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala it is linked to everything. And everything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is linked to the power of Allah, in the sense that we say that it can only happen by the qudra of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is linked with all contingent possibilities. So we mentioned that the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is only linked to the mumkinat. It is not linked to the wajibat, and it is not linked to the mustahilat. All this we mentioned last time. If he did not possess any omnipotence with general linkage, he would have been described with incapability. And if part of contingencies is linked to the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning Allah has power over part of his creation, but does not have power over the other part, then this will be impossible. This will he will be described with incapability. Something can function in his creation, and he does not have the ability to create that happening, or to have control and the power over all things. And were he incapable, nothing will be in need of him. And if you say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not capable, then nothing will be in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because he does not possess power. But Allah possess power, and the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encompass everything, and everything happens by him, is what we mentioned. So this is how we understand the qudra of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again we go back into the kalima la ilaha illallah, when we understand that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is divine, other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that necessitates that Allah possesses any power. Likewise here, the author will speak about al-irada, that necessitates also that he possess will, because he is the one who specifies he is the one who specifies everything. That all others beside him are in need of him necessitates that he possess will, that is linked with all contingent possibilities. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought everything into existence, and he is the one who specified their existence. Allah is the one who specify the time, or specify the place of the existence, and so on and so forth, and the characteristics of things. So it shows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala possess this will. If he does not possess will with a general linkage, he would have been described with detesting, karaha, meaning he is forced. If Allah is not ascribed with al-irada, meaning he is something can enforce Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is impossible. Meaning he got no will, so he is enforced, and this is impossible. Were he to detest to be forced, nothing will be in need of him, because to be in a state of enforced upon, it shows that he is incapable, that he is incapable to create or to specify the creations. It is impossible to negate that everything is in need of him, the exalted, because it has been affirmed for him both rationally and textually. So it is impossible that Allah is forced, when everything is in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how can everything that is in need of Allah, at the same time we say that he is forced by something else, or he cannot specify certain things, or there are other things that specify other things without him. So all this goes to show incapabilities, and all these are impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when it comes to knowledge, that all others beside him are in need of him, necessitates that he, the exalted, possesses knowledge that is linked with all that is known. Were he be to describe with ignorance, nothing will be in need of him. So it is impossible that the divine is ascribed with ignorance. Likewise, earlier we say it is impossible for him to be ascribed with being enforced to, or enforced upon, or does not possess capability. All these are basically shortcomings that will entail that everything else is not in need of him, because he is in need of something else if he does not possess these attributes. So I hope it is clear, inshallah. All these are basically straightforward, and All of these things actually we have mentioned last time when we spoke about the attributes. This is just an extension of what we have mentioned last time, and it is basically to explain the meaning of la ilaha illallah and the concept of al-istighna, and how these attributes can be understood within that concept. The affirmation of these attributes implies the affirmation of the predicative attributes, namely that he is all powerful, willing, and all knowing. When it comes to sifat ma'nawiyah, we mentioned that sifat ma'nawiyah is derived from sifat ma'ani. So the moment you ascribe sifat ma'ani, sifat ma'nawiyah comes automatically. So all this it is clear, no need for me to explain much. Then he mentioned if any of these attributes were negated, or any of their implications, or all of it were negated. Attributes go back into al-haya, al-ilm, al-qudra, al-irada. He spoke about these 4 attributes. If any of these attributes were negated, for example, if a person negate, for example, that Allah does not have power. If Allah does not have power, meaning he is incapable, and meaning he is in need. Likewise, if a person negates al-haya, meaning he does not exist, na'uzubillah min dhalik. If a person negate any willingness, meaning he does not have any choice. If a person negate knowledge, meaning he is ignorant. So all this will bring about impossibility. So he said if all of them were negated, or part of them are negated, it will not be possible for any contingent thing to exist because of the incapability. Because of the incapability when we negate any of the 4 attributes. The reason for this is that it is impossible for something to exist if it is conditioned without a conditioner. If it is impossible for something to exist when the one who bring it into existence does not possess the ability to do so. So it is when we say, for example, something is in existence without something else that brought it into existence, or we say that something else that was supposed to brought it into existence does not possess the capability to do so. So this will necessitate that it is impossible in the first place for that particular thing or contingent being to be in existence. Because if we have come to the conclusion that the one who brought it supposedly to bring it into existence itself does not possess the ability to do so. So it means that none of the contingent beings are brought into existence. So this is basically the principle. This is a kind of a logical principle. Just like how we say for example a contingent being cannot come into existence without an originator. Correct or not? Something that has a beginning cannot exist without something else that brought it into existence. So how can we affirm that a contingency come into existence without an originator, the one who brought it into existence? So it is about the same concept. The only thing here is that if the one who's supposed to bring him into existence, or to bring the contingency into existence, does not possess the capacity to do so. So it means that the thing cannot exist. The contingency cannot exist. It will follow from this that nothing is therefore dependent upon him, because the reason for dependence is possibility and contingence. If God does not possess the ability to bring contingency into existence, then no contingency will be in existence, because in the first place he does not have the ability to bring it into existence. So it means that those contingencies if they were to be in existence, meaning they will not be dependent on him, but they will be dependent on the thing that brought it into existence, who possess all the attributes that we mentioned. If any of these attributes were negated, nothing will be in need of him. But how can it be conceived that nothing is dependent on him, the sublime and majestic, when everything besides him is in need of him? So I hope it is clear, inshallah. Because earlier, before this, we spoke about al-istighna, the concept of al-istighna, that everything other than Allah is in need any of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you say everything is in need any of Allah, Allah must possess those attributes. He must possess attributes of omnipotence, of will, likewise any knowledge, and life. But if we negate any of these attributes, and at the same time, and we say that the contingencies are in need any of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He does not any possess any of those attributes, then it will be impossible any that the contingencies are in need any of Him, because for the fact that He is any incapable, na'udzubillah min dhalik, then the contingencies any cannot be in existence, but the contingencies any is in existence, any based any on our observation. So it shows any that the one any who brought it into existence any must possess any those necessary any attributes, must possess those necessary any attributes. So this is how any we look any into this thing. I hope any it is clear, inshallah ta'ala. I do not know any if there is any question. Any, if you have any question, you can write any in the comments in the section of the link and I post in the WhatsApp group, and I can repeat again, inshallah. And if it is not clear, inshallah, any I will repeat again. Yani if not, any we will just continue. Earlier, you mentioned that the sublime and majestic, when everything besides Him is in need any of Him. Firstly, any in order to be brought into existence, and secondly, to receive any sustenance. Any contingencies, and number one, it is brought into existence any from non-existence, and it is maintained any in receiving any sustenance. So, for example, any we say Allah created us, we are created any by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After He created us, He sustained us. So there is a difference any between creation and sustenance. Not only Allah brought you into existence, but Allah sustained you. That you, because you do not have any the ability to sustain in yourself, you are in need of Him. You are in need of Him. So you being in existence and being any in a state of in need any of Him, it shows any that He possesses any all those attributes any that we mentioned. It shows any that He possesses any the attributes any of power, the attributes any of will, the attributes of al-haya, life, the attribute any of knowledge. So all this any necessitates any that He possesses any those attributes. When we ponder any upon any contingencies, and we understand that every contingent beings any is in need any of the originator, then we understand that this originator yani possess any such any attributes. But if we negate any those any attributes, then it will be impossible. So how can any we say that contingencies any are in need of Him when He does not possess any those attributes? But in reality the contingencies any they are in need of Him. So there is any a contradiction. So that is why any we say that how any we understand this any is when we come to the conclusion that everything else any is in need any of Him, then any He must any possess those attributes. Now any we continue. Now any we speak any about oneness. Yani the oneness any of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he said that all others any beside Him. That all others beside Him are in need of Him necessitates that He, the sublime and majestic, is described any with oneness in divinity. So when we understood that everything is in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this necessitates that He must be one. He cannot be more than one. And this again, and it goes back any to the rational any argument any of Burhanu Tamanu' when we speak about the concept of wahdaniyah, that if God any is more than one, any then what you call it, it will necessitate any then what you call it, they are in need. So we spoke any last time any about the three situation. If any God any is more than one, and if God any is two or three, then sometimes if yani they were to go against any each other, takhaluf, yani if God any number one wants any to create something, God number two yani does not want any to create it, for example, it will be a clash any of powers. So this is any impossible, yani for creations any to be any in a state any of perfection. If any they work together and create any something, then both cannot become God. Both any cannot become God because they are in need any of one another. and the other one is the God number one, and he does a particular thing, and God number two does not do anything in agreement. So what you call it, this God number two cannot become God. So this is the concept Burhanu Tamanu that he will just mention here. But it is good that you revise the part when we spoke about the proofs for oneness of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala as a revision. So he said, is described with oneness and in divinity. Were there a second being sharing in divinity, nothing will be in need of Allah. Because both in that scenario, meaning in the case of your assume coexistence, inability will apply to both of them. If God is more than one, both of them cannot become God. And if a person for example you say that there are two gods, both of this entity cannot become God, because of the impossibility that it entails in that particular situation. And this is what I mentioned earlier, that we look into what have been mentioned in the part where the author speaks about wahdaniyah. So he said inability will apply to them both, whether they are in a state of agreement. Agreement meaning both of them agree to do to create a particular thing. Both of them cannot become God. Or disagreement, one wants to create, the other one does not want to create. Or if they each took their own share, both of them create any part of a particular thing, the other one create any part of a particular thing. So all these three situations will entail that both of them cannot become God, because they are in need. They are in need and possess inability in all these situations. The belief that nothing is in need of him is false then. As explained earlier, how can it be when he, the sublime and majestic, is the one whom all others need forever? Because all these situations will entail that he is in need. So how come he is in need, and at the same time we are saying everything else other than him is in need of him, when he himself is in need? So he cannot become divine. So this is how we understand wahdaniyah, that by understanding that God is one, then what you call it, then we are able to understand that everything else other than him is in need of him. But if God is more than one, meaning not everything is in need of each of them, because God is more than one. So if not everything is in need of them, then they cannot become any divine, or they cannot become any God. Because when we speak about wajibul wujud and divinity, it means that everything other than God is in need of God. So when we come into the situation where not everything is in need of God, then it cannot be God. So I hope is clear, inshallah. It follows that from this, that the universe is in its entirety is contingent. If anything from it was eternal, its existence will be necessary, and it will be free from needing him. Likewise, last time we spoke about the argument of contingency of the universe, that we say that this universe is contingent, and meaning it has a beginning. So it cannot be necessary. The existence of this universe cannot be necessary, because if the existence of the universe is necessary, meaning it will not be in need of the originator to bring into existence, because it has been all the while in existence. This is the meaning of wajibul wujud, necessary existence. So the universe, we understood that the universe is contingent. If the universe is believed to be necessary in its existence, then it will imply that it has already been in existence, so it is not created and not contingent. And this tahsilul hasil, and this is impossible to assume that a particular thing other than Allah, like the universe for example, to be wajibul wujud, the existence to be necessary, because necessary cannot be contingent. A necessary existence cannot be a contingency at the same time. So it means that if the universe is not contingent, meaning it's not in need of the God to bring it into existence, and this is impossible. That he, the exalted, cannot be described with previous or future non-existence, is a proof that he is free from needing a determiner, that Allah ini has no beginning and no ending. So Allah ini is not in need any of a mukhassis, any the one who specifies any the existence or specify the characteristics. Yani Allah ini is wajibul wujud, yani he is not any affected any by other than him. So nothing any can affect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and nothing can specify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Such a determiner will be free of needing him, the exalted, and that is impossible, because if part any of the universe any was self-sufficient, all of it any will be self-sufficient. So if a person any were to say that part any of the universe is not in need of Allah, the other part any is in need of Allah, now this is it shows any that everything is not in need any of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when we say that the universe any is contingent, meaning it is in need any of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if we say that part any of the universe any is necessary in its existence, yani it means that they are not in need any of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in that case, the thing is that when we say that they are not in need any of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now this is a situation where we say that it is a part any of inability on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not any to have any effect any on part any of his existence. So all this any goes back any to the inability, and if that happens, and that is impossible. All of it any will be self-sufficient due to the likeness any between the part and the whole. Yani if another thing is, yani if part any of the universe any is necessary, meaning everything any is necessary. As what I mentioned any last time, any if you can remember, there can be no such thing any as partial contingent, partial necessary. If it is necessary, then it is necessary. If it is possible, then it is possible. It is impossible any to say that partially it is contingent, partially is not contingent. That is any impossible. So if you were to say any that it is necessary, it has any to be necessary. If a person any says that part of the universe is necessary, meaning any the universe is necessary. So you cannot be saying any part any of the universe any is necessary, and the other part any is contingent, because any this is this concept any about necessary and possible and impossible, this cannot any be intermixed. It cannot be intermixed. And this is any the thing any about rational any judgment, is that you cannot intermix any these rulings, because everything it is impossible for any of the contingent impossible things to be self-sufficient from him, the exalted, because everything must be dependent on him. Yani when it comes to contingencies, and we say that contingencies and is brought into existence by Allah, so it means any that Allah yani is sustaining it, and they are in need any of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How can it be rationally conceived that anything beside him can be self-sufficient, when it is rationally and textually necessary for all others beside him to be in need of him, as what we mentioned many a times. And when Allah is the one who brought everything into existence, so how can they not be in need any of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when they themselves do not possess any power, when Allah is the one who brought it into existence, and Allah is sustaining it, and all this entails that Allah possesses all these perfect attributes of al-ilm, of al-qudrah. So these are the things that we are mentioning. So I hope it is not difficult especially for those who are following a lot of things, basically it is repeated. All this many of these things we have mentioned in our previous classes, inshallah. We will continue. Then he mentioned you should know that according to the consensus here meaning ijma', the sublime and majestic, that you should know according to the consensus, anyone who believes in the eternality of anything in the universe or its endlessness, meaning is the independent any endlessness, or doubts any about the matter, is considered to be a disbeliever. So this is the thing about the connection of to la ilaha illallah, the kalima of la ilaha illallah. We mentioned that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is wajibul wujud, other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in need any of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the concept of al-istighna. But the moment a person believes the otherwise, what happens? And he is not a Muslim. If a person believes, for example, there is something other than Allah is also wajib, now this will automatically make him become a disbeliever. If he believes that there are things other than Allah, that are divine, or that does not, is not in need any of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let me put this thing again to be clear, inshallah. Yani, if a person believes there is something other than Allah, whatever it is, there is something other than Allah that is not in need any of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the thing the author is speaking about. If a person believes there is something other than Allah, is not in need any of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not in need any of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or him saying, for example, this thing is wajibul wujud. It has no beginning and has no ending. So it is not in need any of Allah who is wajibul wujud. Now this is a state of kufr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is based on ijma', based on consensus. That is why Al-Imam Razali in Tahafatul Falasifa, one of the things that he says that the philosophers has this belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the things is they believe in the pre-eternality of the universe. That this alam is qadim. Al-Imam Razali mentioned this an act of kufr that will make a person go out of Islam. So this is the thing here. The moment a person believes that there are other things other than Allah that is qadim, that is not in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he cannot be considered to be a believer in Islam. Believes in the eternity of anything in the universe or his endlessness, meaning is independent, independent endlessness. Why the author put a note here, meaning independent endlessness? Some people might be thinking, but in Jannah, Allah says khalidina fiha, people will enter in Jannah forever and ever. So but now we are saying that there is nothing that is independent in its endlessness, meaning independent by itself. The people of Jannah, when they enter into Jannah, and they will stay in Jannah forever and ever, meaning they stay in Jannah forever and ever by the qudra of Allah. Allah is the one who make them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who make them such, not because of something in them which makes them independent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in staying forever ever by saying that they have the attribute of al-baqa. That is not the case. So here we are saying there is a difference between someone believe that something is eternal, something is eternal independent from Allah, and something that Allah is the one who make it in existence forever and ever. So what is the difference? The difference is that the first one is independent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whereas the second is still dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, despite they will enter into Jannah forever and ever. Or doubts about the matter is considered to be a disbeliever. Doubt if a person in doubt for example, that there might be something that is not in need of Allah, not in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning what? Meaning possessing their own power, possessing their own power, independent power by themselves. Now this is shirk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, cannot be considered to be a Muslim. It follows from this need that all have unto him the sublime and majestic, that no existence has any independent effect. Nothing can have independent effect other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in bringing things into existence or non-existence, no matter what it may be, and no matter how small. Fire, then he gave an example. For example, any fire. So basically what the author is saying again, and he's saying that nothing other than Allah possess independent efficacy. Last time he used the word efficacy. Nothing other than Allah possess any independent efficacy. Everything comes from Allah, no matter how small it is. So he gave the example of fire. We gave this example many a times last time. Fire therefore has no effect in combustion. Can you see it? Food has no effect in satiety. Fire cannot burn. Food cannot make you full. Tamam? Water cannot quench. Water has no effect in quenching thirst. And the same, and he said for any other conventional use. Conventional here say hukum adi. Hukum adi, and best hukum adi. And for example, when we are hungry and we eat food. When we are hungry and we eat food, what happens after we eat food and we become full? So the food becomes the asbab. The food becomes the asbab. But Allah is the one who gave you fullness. This is called hukmul adi. This is called hukmul adi. And when we say hukmul adi, meaning the effect is not from makhluk. Effect is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it is an asbab. It is an asbab. Likewise, pertaining to fire, there is combustion. It is not any fire that burns, but Allah is the one who created in fire the ability to burn. It burns by Allah, not by combustion. So combustion is just a means. If anything from the conventional causes or anything else possess independent effect, it will entail that it was independent from our master, the sublime and the majestic, while at the same time having a need for that thing it affected. Now all these are basically any impossibilities that whenever we say something possess any independent any effect, meaning it is independent from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we say that fire possess the ability to burn, meaning fire is not in need of Allah to burn. It burn by the power in itself. And this is the aqeedah of the naturalists or the people of Taba, as what we mentioned last time. So all these things brings about to kufr, because it is when we have established that everything other than Allah is in need of Allah, but at the same time we are saying but they have independent efficacy, meaning they are not in need of Allah. So this is a contradiction. So it is impossible, because before this we have established that everything other than Allah is in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is impossible because if some were independent, it will follow that all were independent from our master. Is part of contingencies and is independent from Allah, then everything else will carry the same ruling, that they are also independent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is impossible, and that negates dependence upon Allah the Exalted. It is impossible to negate that everything is in need of Him the Exalted, because it has been affirmed for Him both rationally and textually. How can it be conceived that others are self-sufficient when all are forever in need of Him, the sublime and majestic, in a general sense that includes all beings and in all states and attributes, whether substances, accidents, or anything else, assuming that the world contains that which is neither a substance nor an accident, as the philosophers claim. Basically everything in terms when we speak about creations, in terms of substances, accidents, everything is a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So meaning everything is in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it is impossible to assume that they are other than Allah that is independent in itself. That is impossible. All this we have mentioned the evidences in the Quran, and also rational evidences, that all contingencies do not possess any independent efficacy, but it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So inshallah, because of time, I think we will stop here. So again, the author goes on to speak about this concept of taba. Last time we also spoke about the concept of taba and illah. So he mentioned here about the effect people who believe the effects of nature, for example, as most people most philosophers today, and mainly scientists and people who are what you call it in the West, for example, until today they still believe in such ideologies, where they do not believe in either they do not believe in the existence of Allah, like the atheists, or some of them believe in the existence of God, but they give limitations in the sense that He does not have power over the universe, and so on. So the author will speak about this. So as a conclusion, we mentioned that the meaning of la ilaha illallah, when we speak about al-istighna, that everything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It necessitates the attributes, that's what we mentioned, the attribute of qudra, the attribute of al-haya, the attribute of al-ilm. It necessitates that Allah possess those attributes. And when we understand that everything other than Allah is in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we understand that everything other than Allah does not possess independent efficacy. So we cannot ascribe something from the contingencies as possessing independent efficacy, because if that happens, that will make a person becomes an apostate or disbeliever, because he believes that there is something other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is not in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where we have established the proofs of the false of this claim. Wallahu alam bis-sawab. Let me see if there is any question. So there is no question. Inshallah, we will continue any next week. And inshallah, I believe we just have we will have a few lesson before we complete this kitab inshallah ta'ala. ربنا تقبل دعانا انك انت السميع العليم وتب علينا انك انت التواب الرحيم واختم بصالحات اعمالنا واجرنا الله الكريم بفضل سبحان ربك بالعزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين الحمد لله تقبل الله منكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.